Commoner in Flesh and Blood is an interesting little format. Some heroes are able to execute their design game plans rather well, albeit, of course, less efficiently than the standard constructed formats. Other heroes, though, just cannot. The cards aren't there currently in the Commoner format to allow them to execute. And thus, to no real surprise, the meta can be quite different from that of the other constructed formats. So in this week's Commoner video, I'm sharing my ultimate and the absolute bestest Commoner tier list.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Thanks so much for tuning in for this week's Commoner video. That's right, going through the uber bestest. No other tier list could possibly be as good as this tier list. That's right. So without wasting too much time, let's get into this. 24 legal heroes in the Commoner format at 1 minute apiece. You guys can do the math. Plus, you can probably hear I'm starting to lose my voice, so faster is better. Now, real quick, we're going to go top down on what the tiers mean. So tier 0, this is your S tier. I hear a lot of people call it. I've never understood S tier. But hey, it's my video and I can call it what I want to. So tier 0, this is the best hero, right? In the format. Tier 1 and tier 1.5. Tier 1 is obviously better than Tier 1.5. The reason I've named them that is because what is in Tier 1 is the reason that Tier 1.5 is there. Very good heroes, but kept in check by Tier 1. We then have Open Tier. One of the coolest things about this format is the fact that a good pilot with most of these heroes, not all of them, most of these heroes, can do quite well. And then we have the bottom tier, Tier Trash Tier, whatever you want to call it. That is the exception to what I said. A good pilot can do really well in this format, but not with one of these, or not as well with one of these heroes. Let's just put it that way. So without further ado, tier 0 is Dash. I don't think it comes as a surprise to anybody. Talishar Dash, Hyper Boost, right? Starting with a Hyper Driver. She does everything she wants. It's basic strategy it's very similar to her Blitz deck. Obviously, you don't have everything. You don't have T-Bones and stuff like that. But most of her stuff is common. She has zeros, zippers, throttles. She's got combustible courier. She has everything. She has overblast. She has payload. She has everything she needs. She does really well. The breakpoints put on a lot of pressure. Talishar is a rare, and she just goes and does what she needs to do. It's very hard to stay on top of her. She can also run the shotgun for more of an extended match where she can load the shotgun and then boost, fire the shotgun for free. Good stuff. Don't know much more that we need to say there. She's S tier. She's tier 0. Next, we have in Tier 1, we have Bravo. Bravo's very, very strong. One of the main reasons he's strong is because Anathos is real good. Pummel's a common. Anathos and Pummel, match made in heaven. He also does really well against Icelander, who's also very strong in the format. He does pretty well against Dash because he can block. And he's really well positioned because, again, he can block and then keep just throwing Anathos. Ira has been here forever. She's like the OG hero, right, in the Learn to Play kits, and she's still really good. She's actually the only hero that has, I believe, she's the only hero that has a specialization because Whirling Mist Blossom is a common, legal in the format, and she can actually get some card draw off if you can do it well. Her with Kodachis, with that constant +1, is very, very strong. She's, I think, the best ninja. Some of them are very close, but I think she's the best ninja in the format. Then we have Icelander, last of the Tier 1 heroes. Icelander's very, very good in this format. Her job, basically her approach is she takes the 2 5s, right, the red 5s, and lobs them over the AB, and then just kind of disrupts as you go. Now, sure, she doesn't have access to all the blue ice tricks, but again, this is Commoner format, and not everybody has access to all the stuff, not all of their stuff. Icelander's very good in this format because she can slow you down. She can stick a couple through if they overextend themselves, if they draw bad. Remember, this is a no sideboard format, so people are packing their Sinks, they're packing their Fates, they're packing their Oases, either way, they're packing those. So as long as she can get over, that damage is done, and it's in there. And then because she's so strong in the format is one of the reasons that Bravo is so strong in the format, and because, blocking's a thing, Commoner is more of a fundamental format, and blocking is a thing in most cases. Going to the tier 1 Phis, I'll throw them all up at the same time. So I have Kassai here, I have Briar here for the Cheerios Briar, and I also have Phi here. Now, the main reason that these guys, let's just be blunt, the main reason that these guys aren't tier 1 is because of Iyslander. Iyslander shuts Kassai down really hard, shuts Phi down pretty hard, and Briar is trying to do, nimbleism into a 0, into a Rosetta swing or something like that. And yeah, Iyslander does her thing. All three of these decks are very, very strong decks. I won a commoner event on Kassai before Uprising came out and before Iyslander was legal. Ever since Iyslander's been out, it's really hard to play Kassai. Phi's, Rupture Phi is what Phi plays the Rupture. He's Kodachi, something else, and then a Rupture. Searing Touch and stuff like that are very good cards in the commoner format. He does very well against other heroes, but he just can't cut through Iyslander, right? So when I look at tier 1 and tier 1.5, the tier 1 heroes, you could probably go 5-0 on the day, 4-0 on the day. Your tier 1.5 heroes, I would expect to go X-1 on the day because they're going to start running into those other heroes as you ascend the ladder. But hey, if they don't show up, dual swing your way to victory, baby. All right, going into open tier. So Oldhim is also very good for many of the same reasons that Bravo is. It's just I think that Bravo's ability in this particular format to dominate is really strong. Bravo being able to dominate either on 0 or 1 and stick damage through and immediately put somebody on the back foot has a lot of value, and Oldhim can't do that as well. Oldhim also doesn't have quite the same access to all of his tricks. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Cranky Grandpa here. I guess cranky young man Grandpa, whatever. I'm not taking anything away from him here. He's just not as good as Bravo, and that's why I have him down in the open tier. Right, Young Prism, the Pummel Prism Heralds is actually really decent, right? You use Blinding Beam and you can kind of stave off, but the reason she's in open tier is she just can't. It's like with Bravo being very good, Rhinar being popular, she just can't cut through, right? You're going to see you're going to see some Rhinars at your commoner event, and she runs up against those 6s and she just can't do it, right? She's got a couple plays where she can get around Phantasm, maybe pummel out, but once she uses her tricks, she's out. Young Chane, of course, Young Chane. I'm going to say young on a lot of these because I'm reading off the slide. I've gotten lit up for that before. Obviously, we all know they're the young heroes, right? Now, Chane, the only reason I have him in open tier is he's very susceptible to fatigue in the format. If the things don't go right for you, and that's why, over the course of a 4-round, 5-round tournament, you're probably going to have a game where things don't go quite right. Now, he's very strong with Shrill. Shrill's very good for him, right? Because you can aura out Shrill and then Rosetta. Pretty strong, right? If you can get a non-attack in there or something like that as well. And Nimbleism wouldn't work on that, but you guys see my point, right? If you can get a non-attack aura and non-attack Shackle, Shrill, you guys get it. He's very strong, but he's very, very, very susceptible to fatigue in this format because he doesn't quite have all the high damage cards, like no swarming and stuff like that. It does matter. It does matter. Right, Rhinar, very good in this format. The problem that keeps him in open tier is that he's a little hard. So he doesn't have barraging, right? And that's a little tough. So he doesn't quite intimidate at the same rate that he would in constructed or standard constructed. So that's really why I have him down there is, there are really good matchups for him, but there's also some really bad matchups for him as well. So that's why I have him down there. Katsu, that was actually a shout out. There was a pretty hot Katsu deck at our last commoner crawl. He was doing Katsu things and tutoring. It was working pretty well. I just don't think Katsu's as good as Ira, and you're going to see a recurring theme as we go through heroes here that if there's another person of the same class who's higher, right, like the Oldhim case, I don't see a reason to put them in a higher tier. That's just where I'm at. Kano, I have actually seen people do. I didn't want to put Kano in bottom tier because I don't think he belongs there, but Kano struggles. He does struggle in this, but people have tried it, and I've seen Kano win games, so I think he's in the open tier as well. But I think that's a case where, maybe he'd go 2-2 on the day, 3-2 on the day, something like that. Into Azalea, I have to definitely put her in open tier. She's actually pretty good, right? Because she doesn't need, a lot of her arrows are common. She has the 0-4 arrows. She has 1-5 arrows that are common. and she's just playing it for dominate. Kevin has taken her to a 3-1 twice and worked out very well for him. So, you can definitely do it too, right? All right, Viserai, I think Viserai falls below. I mean, they're trying to do different things. I think Viserai falls probably below Chane, but Viserai can do some pretty crazy things too. I think he has to play more of like I think he has to like do that inflection point thing where he tries to build up a bunch of rune chants, kind of takes it to the face for a few turns, defends for a few turns, and then goes. That's at least what I've seen. I haven't actually played him myself outside of like Felt Table in Commoner, but it seems that, you want to, because you don't have all the tricks to give your non-attacks go again, or have them play to give go again, right, and do your tricks. You don't have Mauvrian Skies and stuff like that. So it's kind of a big deal for Viserai. Young Lexi actually is pretty cool in the format. You do, you have to play her in her ice. Oh, big trucks. You do have to play Lexi in her ice version to try and delay because remember, she's on Shiver, she's not on Voltaire. So you're basically just trying to create ice while you stick the damage and kind of slow them down. There's an argument to be made that her and Azalea are they play very different, but they kind of don't in that they're trying to dominate the stuff through. And then they have to play heavy. And in fact, I think Azalea is probably easier to play over the course of a tournament because you can kind of have the more defense reactions because it's really one card less. And Azalea also has, they both have access to it, but Azalea could redliner in the Icelander matchup and stuff like that, whereas with Lexi, you still probably want to use Shiver. Right, and then we have Benji. Benji's also pretty, he kind of suffers from the same problem where he's just not quite as good as Ira just because his card pool's he doesn't quite have as many. He still has a lot of really cool tricks. He can still stick that damage through. Don't forget that there's way less armor in this format, so he can kind of do things, but he doesn't have his Enders, right? He doesn't have Spring Tidings. Really all he's got access to, for the most part, is Salt the Wound, and he doesn't really have much card draw potential. So that's why I have him below Ira. And then Dromai, so remember Dromai, obviously she doesn't have her big dragons. So she's relying 100% on Ashwing Swarm, and she's really good. She's really strong, except in a handful of matchups. So that's why I have her in the open tier as well. If she runs up against people who can either go wide on her and pop all the Ashwings, or somebody who just has enough poppers, it can stay on top of that. Dromai really can't survive. She does really well in Kassai. Because remember, Kassai, anybody who's only doing 1 or 2 attacks a turn and doesn't have poppers, she can do well against. She can actually Ashwing Swarm pretty hard. But people who can just go either outrace her or can stay on top of her, she doesn't really have a chance. All right, moving into bottom tier, I know there's going to be some flack for this, but I'm just being realistic. So Levia just doesn't have, she's not great and constructed as it is. I know that there are people out there who've done very good things with her, and I'm not taking it away from her, but she really struggles in this format to basically not kill herself. Because if she gets to the point where she misses, then she just starts killing herself too. Same problem in constructed, but you have less efficiency, and if you have less efficiency, and I even think she's less efficient than others' less efficiency. Boltyn just doesn't have what he needs. Now you could do a very, he does have Blade Runner, and you can do a Boltyn Axes. That's basically what you're doing with him. You could do a Boltyn Sabers too if you wanted to. I don't know why you wouldn't go Axes with him, quite frankly. But he can do the thing. It's just he's not as good as Kassai. He's not. Kassai gets that second swing for free, which lets you do a lot of, not only you could either run a higher curve, or you can play a back pump, and he just doesn't have that access. Dorinthea's main problem, that's why she's down here as well. She doesn't quite have she doesn't have Warrior's Valor. She doesn't have Spoils of War. She doesn't have real good ways because she cannot run Blade Runner, or with Dawnblade, And again, if you're not running with Dawnblade, then why aren't you just running Kassai? Again, right, it's the same theme. So without those setups for her, she doesn't really have what she needs. Now, sure, you can run Driving Blade, but then, right, and that's why Kassai is so good with that 3-second swing. It's like a Driving Blade into a swing is a 3-pitch for 2 swings. With the other guys, it's 4-pitch, right? So that's a big difference. It's a big difference. Dorinthea, you can do reacts, but again, it just, I don't want to belabor on it too much. She's just not as good as Kassai, and that's why I have her there. And I have her below open tier because she's so much worse than Kassai that there's really no reason not to play her. Kayo, I've seen people try it, but without ways to fix your dice, because he just without ways to fix your dice, which you don't have in this format, it's not good, right? I mean, you're going in disadvantaged on 2/3 of your game, right? It's just the way it is. Data Doll, I don't really think I need to say much more there. Now, Kavdane, I think, is one I will take flack about, but it boils down to most of the stuff that Kavdane's doing, other heroes can do the same thing. And, right, it's, you know, if you look at like the Slogism play, right, Slogism and Bravo, like I actually play that in my Bravo, right? So it's kind of the, you know, the Kavdane thing with heavy blues. A lot of the other heroes can do it and still have access to their cards. So that's why I have him down there. So anyway, that is my tier list. Like I said, I'm losing my voice and I can feel it starting to go. So I want to go ahead and cut us off here, but please let me know what do you disagree with? What do you agree with? Do you think Dash here? Do you think she belongs there? I do. I think she's really good with all her breakpoints. I actually think, I was talking to the guys about this, I think Talishar should actually be banned from this format because of her, but if we banned it, then the guys down there, right, you'd have nothing for Kavdane. So not advocating that, but I think that Dash should be forced to play with her shotgun because I think it just makes a little more efficiency and she can't swing without it. So anyway, that's a whole different can of worms. Like I said, I was going to shut up and stop talking about it. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, for having fun with the ultimate bestests. Cannot be a Dever tier list that ever is more correct than this one. Having a little bit of fun. Thanks for joining us for Commoner, and go Commando.